Every time we do one of these top 5 upcoming games videos, a lot of you down in the comments let us know what games we missed. It happens every single time, without fail. But this is July and it's a very dry month, and honestly, there's no chance that that's going to happen this month. Right?
Alright, so let's start this month's games lineup with Final Fantasy XII, the ZODIAC Age for PS4. The ZODIAC Age is a remastered version of Final Fantasy XII International ZODIAC Job System.
International ZODIAC Job System.
Right, okay.
I'm sure it sounds awesome in Japanese.
Which was an enhanced version of the original Final Fantasy XII that only came out in Japan. ZODIAC Age features high-definition visuals, remastered voice acting, and a newly recorded and arranged soundtrack, along with some gameplay improvements that you might come to expect. For those of you unfamiliar with Final Fantasy XII, it was one of the less appreciated games in the series because of its MMO-like questing and combat, which at the time of release, not many people found appealing, despite immensely positive reviews at launch. But in recent years, the game has developed somewhat of a cult following, and reappraisals of the game have called it one of the series' best installments. Look out for the ZODIAC Age on the PS4 on July 11th.
So the most interesting thing we could find to talk about that was the title. No, I'm sure it's great. Remasters, you know, there's always one on the list, I suppose. This is this month's, I guess, if you missed out on Final Fantasy XII. I did. That was the only one that I didn't play.
Yeah, same. I have played pretty much all of them, but not 12.
Yeah, so there you go. If you're in that market, go for it. Next up is Yonder, the Cloudcatcher Chronicles for PC and PS4. It's out on July the 18th. Yonder is an indie game in which players explore the island of Gamea, uncovering all of its secrets and mysteries on a quest to become the island's champion. Yonder is best described as a Zelda-like game with elements of town management like you'd find in Harvest Moon or Dark Cloud. Players will be able to farm, craft, cook, brew, and fish with the island's residents, who will reward players and form a bond with them. So this sounds pretty interesting. This is your kind of cup of tea, this all over.
This is it. This is one of the ones. In fact, the first conversation we ever had, like when I started here, what games are you looking forward to in 2017? This is like way back in December 2016. Yeah. This is one of the games I've been keeping an eye out. It's so close now. Looks great, like an evolution of like something like Harvest Moon or Stardew Valley that absolutely smashed it last year. You've got a bit of that farming sim sort of stuff, but you've also got this sort of dungeon style thing, a bit like Dark Cloud.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. It's the Dark Cloud comparison that appeals most to me, because I did play that on the PlayStation 2 and I really enjoyed that. There wasn't that many games at the time, as far as I remember, that let you combine, or any game really, that let you combine like adventuring and coming back and having something to build up and work towards, you know, making the town a cool place. So that's really cool.
Alright, so next up, releasing on July the 21st on the Nintendo Switch, is Splatoon 2, one of the biggest Switch exclusives coming out this year. So if you haven't guessed already, Splatoon 2 is a sequel to 2015's Splatoon.
Ah, right, that's interesting.
But this time it has quite a few new features. Let's have a look. Namely, it has a full-length single-player campaign in addition to the multiplayer mode, but other than that, the game is largely the same as its predecessor. Some people have already had hands-on time with the game, as there was a time beater of sorts called the Global Test Fire, and impressions were mostly positive, with praise going to the new weapons and moves. Words and shit, paint.
Yeah. This is no question the biggest one of the month. You know, Switch, desperate for games on the Switch, so pretty much. So this is a great Switch game by the looks of it. It's exactly the kind of thing you want to do. It's very fun, it's very bright, it's very colourful.
Fast-paced.
Nintendo.
Yeah, it's
new though as well. I mean, Splatoon, one of the reasons that was so popular was because it was not Mario or Zelda, and it just mechanically it's a game that's very fun to play, the original Splatoon. So if it's more of the same with a story, awesome. Next up, it's Pyre from Supergiant Games, developers of the likes of Bastion and Transistor. Pyre is an action RPG in a high fantasy setting, with players controlling a character who meets up with 3 other party members to travel to the land of Purgatory. The game's combat system has been described as a mix of Dota, Rocket League and Transistor, and is played from an isometric perspective. The game will also have a local multiplayer mode where friends can control separate enemy parties, but it is local multiplayer only, and there will be no online multiplayer in the game. If Supergiant's previous games are any indication, Pyre will probably have a great soundtrack, a lovely art style, and a nicely told story. Pyre launches on the PlayStation 4 and PC on July the 25th. So this looks very nice again. Transistor and Bastion.
Yeah, the one word that's popping out of me there, or 2 words should I say, Rocket League. What the f where's that come from? What point is it going to be like rocket cars playing football? This is what they've described it as well. I don't...
Maybe there's some kind of physics at play, I guess, because Rocket League is exclusively about just bumping into stuff and physics, I suppose. So,
but it's predominantly about rocket cars, so maybe there's going to be a bit of that in there.
It is. Nicely presented all around, you know, nice story, art style, and sound and music.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Like the voiceover,
all
for example,
meshes together
Bastion.
so well.
The narrator, you know, makes that special. So there's something to look forward to here, whatever you're interested in games, I'd say.
And finally, for the month of July, we have AVEN Colony, a colony management game developed by Mothership Entertainment. Comes out on July the 25th. AVEN Colony centers around building a new human colony on an alien planet called AVEN Prime. Player oversees construction, resource gathering, and managing colonists. The game also has a day-night cycle which affects your colony. For example, at night, the temperature drops so your crops won't grow and solar panels won't generate any electricity. There's also 2 gameplay modes, a campaign mode with missions and objectives, as well as a sandbox mode which gives the players free reign. AVEN Colony has already been through a year-long beta and is scheduled to make its full release on July 25th. Gareth's pick there for those that are interested.
This is most my cup of tea out of all of them so far. I love that kind of settlement builder or anything where you've got to manage resources and expand and that kind of stuff. And especially if it's so focused on that kind of sandbox gameplay where you've got a freedom of creativity and you've got, you know, your problems just kind of emerge as you're playing. I love that kind of stuff. There's so many games now because of Kickstarter and early access and all that kind of stuff. It's in a bit of a renaissance where there's loads of options for this kind of gameplay. This looks like another great addition. It's learned from its kind of, you know, everything else that's on the market and it's trying to do its own thing with it. So yeah, cool. So this month we have to give a special mention to the Destiny 2 console beta, which starts on PS4 and Xbox One on July the 21st. Or you can get in on July the 18th, a few days earlier, if you pre-ordered like an absolute sucker. The beta will include some story content, including the opening mission and one strike mission called the Inverted Spire. Players will be able to try out the game's 3 new classes as well, the Arc Strider, Dawnblade and Sentinel.
There's also 2 fairly notable early access releases this month as well. First up is FABLE Fortune, which releases in early access on the 7th of July for Steam, Xbox One and Windows 10. Fortune is a collectible card game set in the FABLE universe, developed by former members of Lionhead Studios, who formed a new studio called Mediatonic. There's also FORTNITE, a long gestating survival game from Epic Games and People Can Fly, which has been in development for 6 years. FORTNITE has players manage a fort, building up their defences and crafting weapons and armour during the day, and then at night they have to defend their fort from zombies who will attempt to tear it all down. Publisher Epic Games have described FORTNITE as Minecraft meets Left 4 Dead. FORTNITE enters paid early access on July 25th, and the final game is expected to be free to play for a 2018 release.
So there you go, July, middle of summer. There's not that many big AAA blockbusters. There's not all the big titles that you'd normally get from a list like this, but there is still some interesting stuff going on, and we tried to cover all of it. There was a lot there.
Probably did.
3, 4 special mentions. I can't remember.
The Long Dark.
Shit.
It's not out till August.
I am the one, the way your son don't need a gun to get respect up on the street.
Alright, so we don't think we missed much out of there, right? Definitely not. You'll let us know what it was down in the comments. Remember to like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this every day. There's another video right here if you want to watch that, and a link to Patreon if you want to support the channel. See you next time.